What's up there, workforce? Chris here with Work to Game, and I am excited to tell you guys that we got our FanFest tickets. But the question here is, did you have to be a subscribed member? Now, there is a link that you got in your email. You got this access code, and then you're supposed to go off to this website and you're supposed to put it in. And I am going to go ahead and let you guys know, for those of you that clicked in this video, could you have, missed this code? Absolutely. Brian got his code on time. I didn't get mine home on time. I had to end up kind of, requesting help from Square and had to help, say, is there a way I can use a friend's code and all this mess. But ultimately, Brian and I were able to buy our tickets as a pair and we're going. That's great. The question is, did we need that code in the first place? Because there's a lot of upset on the internet and there's not an official response from Square. And so I just wanted to kind of combine these two things. And first of all, yes, we're excited we're going. But the question is, are you not going because the tickets were sold out before you got a chance? Well, first of all, it's really exciting the community's gotten so big that it can sell tickets out in the first place, and because of their rules on making sure it's non-transferable, they are already shutting down threads, shutting down forums, shutting down resale ahead of time. So hopefully this discourages scalpers. Hopefully this means there weren't any scalpers in the first place, but that if there are, they get stuck high and dry with those tickets, and that any tickets that get confiscated that way get re-released to the public at a later time. I know BlizzCon has a big problem with, big rushes. Granted, they're supporting more than mostly just one game. Like, this FanFest is really for 14. BlizzCon is more for a series of games, but they actually, break it across multiple sale dates. So I would love to see them come back and say, hey guys, this was actually just the first wave. We're going to be having another one. I would think that, they have a live letter on the 16th. That's 6 days from now. There is no reason that they couldn't kind of go over that then and have another wave of tickets for sale, but I wouldn't expect that. If you didn't get your ticket, you're probably not going. The Rio already sold out of all of its code-based hotels, so there are many people having to stay off site because the Rio's existing rate is very, very expensive. And so around this whole thing just seems to be bittersweet. For the people that got their room and got their ticket, this is very, very exciting. And Brian and I just need to get together and make sure that we book the same flight. Otherwise, we're fully booked. We're excited to be there, and we're excited to get to meet with any of you that also already have this good news. And so I know I'm jumping around a lot, but I just have totally conflicted feelings right now because I am unbelievably excited to be going to my first FanFest and that we were in a position to be able to do this and to kind of pay our way, and that we were lucky enough to get a chance to exchange our money for those tickets, because there were plenty of people out there who either A, didn't have the money, so they weren't even able to get into this mess, or B, they actually did have the money, they did have the date set aside on their calendar, and that still wasn't enough, that they weren't able to get in. So to drive down to this final controversy, the question is, did you need a code to get in? Now, there's a lot of people saying you didn't, that if you had the link, it was good enough. And I will tell you that Brian and I were refreshing like madmen, and I got my refresh first. And so my refresh came in, and we were on the phone together so that we wouldn't accidentally buy 4 tickets. And it asked me for a code, and I kept entering that code over and over and over, and I didn't catch any of this on footage because I knew I was about to be entering credit card info and stuff, so I just don't even like recording software to be on my computer, or I would have loved to show this, what I saw. So I got to put in that code, and it kept timing out. It kept waiting 30 seconds and then saying no. So I wasn't in the queue screen, I was in the screen that was up yesterday, where you enter your access code and click continue. That's all I saw. And I kept entering my code, pressing continue, entering my code, pressing continue. I even tried Brian's code, I went back and forth, and none of it seemed to make a difference. And it has a timer up in the top right that's counting down from 15 minutes. And I know that at the end of that timer, it's going to kick me out. So I got past the first boss of the dungeon, but I'm totally going to get wiped on the second one that I can't get continue. Now with I think 9 minutes left or something, so I'd been refreshing. Every 30 seconds, it had been re-ticking without refreshing the page, because the queue thing made it sound like if I refreshed that page, I'd be kicked out altogether, and it pushed me on, and so I got to buy my tickets. But one of those refreshes, one of those times that it had the little error pickup and it's going to re-let you enable your access code, it said below, are you not a member? Now, I had actually gone back to it right after it sold out of tickets to see what this was, and I'm not entirely sure that that's not a feature of show clicks, where if you go back and it says not a member, join today, when I click on that, it just took me to a page that said example domain. So it's some way where, like, if somebody like Final Fantasy XIV wants to allow you to become a member, then this would have been a good place for them to say, like, buy Stormblood today for events that have that sort of thing, right? We're an organization, this is for members only, but if that's the problem, maybe you'd like to become a member. And instead it just took it to a page that said example domain. This domain, I have the text here, it said this domain is established to be used for illustrative purposes and exampling documents. You may want to use this domain in examples without prior coordinating or asking permission. So basically, you don't have to ask them, you just have to set it up, and you would be able to go off and have this kind of example set up on ShowClicks. But I didn't click on it while it was live. So maybe some of those people got pushed through and got to buy tickets. Maybe that means there are people who didn't have the proper email set up by July 3rd. They don't have active subscriptions, and they now own up to 4 tickets for FanFest. Now, there's another group of people who are out there claiming that once they bought their tickets, they were able to refresh and get in line again. Now, I had 2 browsers open because that's how I did BlizzCon, and I refreshed them at the same time. One of them never got in. So the idea that somebody bought tickets and then after all that mess, after minutes and minutes had gone by, they were able to refresh and jump in line again, that doesn't make any sense to me because Brian never got in and he was waiting, and in theory that queue was waiting in line. So if this whole thing turns out to be a sham and it was just pulling things at random and it was letting people through and it was letting people in by accident or intentional or by negligence to buy tickets that weren't subscribed, that hadn't done things right, then I'm sure Square will come out and that's going to be a huge deal. But until then, I would say around the fact that they're shutting down threads to sell tickets, which people feel like that's making them, oh, they're shutting it down because we're complaining about this. It's like, no, they're shutting it down because they don't want people selling tickets. So I'm willing to give Square the benefit of the doubt here. I don't see any evidence or any force that says for a fact that there was a deliberate action to allow people that were not subscribed to come to a festival that is entirely set up to gear us for the next expansion and talk about Final Fantasy. I don't see a way that they've made it easy to profit off the sale of those tickets. I don't see a way that they've set out to intend to screw fans. I do think this game has gotten bigger than ever. So unless FanFest is allowed to be a bigger venue and bigger than ever, it is inevitable that these tickets will sell out. So they sold out in more time last year as opposed to selling out in what appears to be minutes or seconds this year. Easily under 15 minutes, we got our tickets, and by the time I refreshed after that, it said they were sold out. So knowing that they sold out in probably under 10 minutes means that, yes, there were probably people who just got screwed. And just like when we talk about whether or not housing is fair, when you talk about anything that's a limited quantity, granted that's different because it's a limited quantity because they chose. When you talk about they picked a venue, they set up this event, they invested a ton of money, and they said, hopefully we fill this, that was going to fill. It was always set to fill. They aren't going to set an event larger than that. So there was always going to be people screwed. Now the question is, did it screw more people than it needed to? So I'm sorry to hear this, and I really do feel conflicted in this post, and I'm recording both at once because I wanted to get them out, and I'm really excited to be going, and but I'm really bummed for everybody that didn't, and I'm hoping that it wasn't anything more than just a mishap with ShowClicks. I'm hoping that it wasn't anything more than, but I will tell you, it asked for my code every single time, and it said not a member as one of those links, and maybe it would allow to refresh, but in my opinion, if I'd been able to get through the line twice and I've been an active subscriber, that means everybody else got to go through the line once because the line was done in order. That's what the queue said. The queue was very, very clear on that. I don't think I still have the queue rules up, but the queue was very clear on don't refresh, don't spam the server, you can be banned for that. Even if your page fails, you're going to hold your spot in line, refresh only in that case, but if it detects you refreshing over and over, it's going to kick you out of line. But once you get past the line, don't refresh again. That's how I read all the rules on there. And then I was in. I only read them for a couple of minutes before it went live, and I refreshed both pages within 5 seconds of it going live, and one of my 2 things got in. Brian did the same thing. We were on the phone. So that's our 4 tabs. I know that's not the scientific method, but that's our 4 tabs, all refreshing within 5 seconds of each other with great internet, with, wallets ready in hand, and both ready to spend the $314.98 to pay for our admission fee and the service fee for our 2 tickets. And we got in, but only on one of those 4. So I wouldn't jump to conclusions here. I would allow Square to come out. I don't expect that to be a press release they do in the next day or 2, but I do expect them to address it on the 16th. I do expect them to address it as a live letter, and I don't expect that, that topic to be very clearly covered, because keep in mind we're dealing with a Japanese company here. That live letter is going to be in Japanese, and that live letter is going to be geared at the whole world, not just the North American market. So it can't be a huge chunk of the time. But yeah, I expect a little something, and I expect them to have gotten a hold of their translation team to have some slides up that kind of go over that. And I expect that, if they haven't gone over this by the 16th, then Brian and I are going to talk about it. But until then, I would say everybody needs to cool their jets. I am sorry to those that don't have tickets. Hopefully they have another wave of tickets that can be sold once they find out how many have been tried to be scalped. They confiscate those. They go in, say, is there any way we can make the venue bigger? They go in and they say, is there anybody who wants to refund their ticket? Is there anybody, that through the process of multi-booking, we accidentally, overheld tickets? Hopefully there's another wave, but I wouldn't bank on that. I would keep your schedule open. I would keep the money in your account, but I wouldn't get your hopes too high, because I don't think they set up that expectation. So if that second wave of tickets doesn't come, I wouldn't want to be disappointed about that. So I feel like I've rambled on this long enough. Yes, Brian and I are going to FanFest. Yes, we're excited to meet you. This is my first year going to FanFest, so I'm sorry if I seem overly positive about this. I'm still really excited to be going. I would love to talk about that more. I think Brian and I may shoot a collab on it, because he's been a bunch of times and I haven't been at all, so I'd love to talk about my expectations for it. I'm really sorry that this wasn't a smooth experience. I don't expect any time millions of people, or at least hundreds of thousands of people, try to refresh the same page on the same day at the same time for it to ever end up well for everybody. I'm shocked the site stayed up at all. So I expected it to go down. Brian and I were literally talking right beforehand, and I said, all right, 4 minutes till this site goes down, 3 minutes till this site goes down, 2 minutes till this site goes down, and I was counting it down because I just expected it to fail. I will tell you, BlizzCon is a way, it's a big event that's been going for a lot of years, and it's not handled any better. So to be able to look to other similar communities where you have a developer that handles a major MMO and has tickets for it, you have to go through a third party, because you're not going to set up your own thing for one event once a year or every other year in FanFest's case. So I think they did their best, and I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, but I need them to come out and say that. I need them to come out and make some clear ownership of what happened, and why it could be misunderstood if that's all that's happening, and why there was a mistake if that's what's happening. So this is Chris with Work2Game. Let me know in the comments down below. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that they actively tried to let people in after making this whole thing about you going and checking on the lodestone to make sure you know which email address is registered, that it's the right email, that you're ready to get your access code? Do you think they went to all that effort just so that they could allow scalpers in some back door? Or do you think that they just didn't care enough to check the loopholes? Or do you think there was an honest mistake? Or do you think people are just looking for somebody to blame because they didn't get tickets? I mean, there's 1,000 different opinions to be here, and I don't see any facts that allow us to break apart a definite version of what happened. So I would love to start that discussion below. We're not going to put out a crazy number of posts on this, but it is a big topic, and as a side note, I would love to talk about what I expect from FanFest. So thank you guys so much for hanging out. Once again, this is Chris with Work2Game. Have a fantastic day, and I'll talk to you next time. What is Work2Game? 30 seconds, go! Work2Game is basically a channel where we talk about video games, anything we like about video games. We sometimes post vlog videos about something else that we just want to talk about. We kind of have a schedule. It changes all the time. It's in the About section on YouTube. We also stream over on Twitch, just anytime we want to play games. Right now, it's happening more and more. I don't know what's happening at the time you watch this video, but the best thing you could do is click on the About page and kind of see if there's a rough plan that we have here